Have you been dreaming about owning a Porsche but don't want to lose a fortune to depreciation?
No worries, I'll guide you through the cars you should steer clear of if you care about resale values, and those that should definitely be on your shortlist. The gap between those two categories is substantial, with some cars experiencing losses up to 25%.
Last year we saw that especially Taycans and to a lesser extent also Panameras depreciated at insane rates. GT4s, GT3 RSs, old Carreras and 992s on the other hand were stable or even increased in price.
Does this still apply, or did the market dynamics shift during 2024? Past depreciation trends can be predictive of the short-term future to some extent, but of course don't provide any certainty.
Now, as you're used to on this channel, we'll take a data-driven approach. First, we'll have a look at the general Porsche market, and after that we'll shift our focus to the quickest depreciating Porsches. We wrap up with the cars for which prices were stable or even increased.
Let's get going with the market overview. Over here we have the US year-over-year price changes for Porsche models covered on my channel. This includes almost all models except for SUVs and those with an extremely low supply. The horizontal axis illustrates the percentage change in the price compared to the previous year, while the vertical axis shows the number of cars affected by this change. The average decrease over the past year was 4%, with most cars experiencing a depreciation between 0 and 6%. This means that the Porsche market is, on average, performing extremely well. The average for all cars that I track on my channel is minus 6.6%, and most of them lose between 2 and 11.8%. These numbers are significantly higher than in the Porsche market.
For now though, we'll focus on the tails.
On the left hand side we find models with extremely high depreciation rates. It are the Taycans and Panameras that fall on this side of the average. The tail is, however, less fat than last year. Depreciation rates decreased, and that's not a surprise. What is surprising though is the inclusion of one RS model in this side of the distribution.
So let's have a detailed look at the quickest depreciating Porsches.
We start with the Taycans. I have been tracking and reporting about the plummeting prices for more than 3 years, and while the depreciation rate remains extortionate, a bit of relief is crawling its way into the market. Over here we have the aggregate trends for the base and S models. Base prices are now 41.6% lower than the market top, and for the S's this is 47.8%. Massive depreciation rates given the short time horizon of 2.5 years. Compared to last year, the picture improved a bit. Base models lost 16.9% or $12,300, and S's 17% or $20,300. Rates that are lower than the averages that we saw during 2023 and the beginning of 2024. In the last few months the curve stabilized. This stabilization is visible for almost all model years. Additionally, we can also see that Taycans which aren't sold within 3 months are discounted less and less. This means that sellers are confident that they will shift the cars without reducing the prices too much. The current discount rate for unsold inventory is 5%, up 6 percentage points from February 2023.
The story is basically the same for the turbos, turbo S's and GTS's, but the rates are a bit higher than in the base and S market.
We can see that GTS's are down by 22.3% or $27,700 compared to last year. For turbos this is 21.1% or $21,100, and for turbo S's 22.9% or $28,000. Also these rates are slightly lower than before. We can see a small flattening during the last 3 months. These are all average numbers. In the detailed market update for the Taycans, we'll have a closer look at the various splits, such as the differences between the Cross Turismos and the hatchbacks. This applies to other models as well.
Panameras are also depreciating quickly, albeit slightly slower than the Taycans. Only other EVs and the Maserati MC20 can match the rate of the Taycan.
Starting with the base and S model of the 971 generation, we can indeed see a similar pattern as in the Taycan market. Compared to last year, base models lost 12.5% or $7,600, while this was 17.4% for the S's. On average, lower than in the Taycan market. Switching to the Turbo, Turbo S and GTS's of the 971 generation, the same conclusion holds. Last year, GTS's lost 14% or $14,600, Turbos 11.5% or $8,000, and Turbo S's 13.5%. Clearly less than in the Taycan market. Visually, We can also see that these lines are less steep, and in the turbo market we can even observe a slight flattening.
Now it's quite surprising that even the old Panameras are depreciating at relatively high rates, that is, relative to the new ones.
If we look at the average trend for the base and S models in the 970 generation, we can see that the yearly depreciation rate is almost on par with the 971 generation. Base models lost 16.7% during last year and S's 16.4%. These cars are on average 10 to 11 years old, and I think it's fair to expect lower rates.
Now it's not a big surprise that Panameras and Taycans belong to the group of quickest depreciating Porsches. But there's also one surprising car included in this group, a car from the RS family.
It is the Cayman GT4 RS. This car was hyped up tremendously and prices immediately increased to levels far above MSRP. We saw cars at $300,000 to $320,000. If you indeed bought into those levels, you're looking at a massive depreciation hit. Even if you waited for the market to cool down and bought in November 2023, your loss is significant. Last year, prices decreased by 13% or $34,000, numbers that you don't typically expect for an RS product. Of course, these cars will find their feet at some point, but we're not quite there yet.
So we covered now the quickest depreciating Porsches, and I don't think it's a surprise that the Panameras and Taycans are included in this group. The inclusion of the GT4 RS is perhaps more surprising, especially if you haven't been following the market that closely.
If we go back to the market overview, it's clear that the left tail mainly belongs to the Taycans and Panameras. If you're a value-conscious buyer, it is wise to avoid these models. Moving to the right, we can see that most Porsches lose between 0 and approximately 6 to 7%. We'll not cover all these models. Rather, we'll focus on the right tail. Cars that didn't depreciate or even appreciated during last year. So value-conscious buyers, pay attention.
We start with the older stuff.
First up are the Cayman 987s. This market has been strong for an incredibly long time. Over here you can see the trends broken down by generation and model type. You can also see that I smoothened them a bit to filter out changes related to the market composition. .1 base models are up by 3.2%, S's by 2.7%, .2 base models by 9.2%, and base models are down by 1.2%. Now, as with many cars in this category, these changes aren't statistically confirmed, so they could be the result of chance. It's clear though that prices have been flat. Also 987.2 boxsters are doing well. Base prices didn't change. Spiders are up by 1% and S's by 5.2%. But again, the changes aren't confirmed.
The 981 generation also has strong price trends, but many models just fall on the negative side of the 0 point. Yes, even the GT4s. The increase halted and a small decline is visible.
Just as 981 values, the 718 ones are strong. Much stronger than many expected when the 4 cylinders were introduced. Values fluctuated around the 0% year-over-year change. And over here we have a few models that just fall on the positive side. Boxster S's are up by 3.7%, 4-liter GTS's by 1.3%, and Spiders by 1%. Again, none of these changes are statistically confirmed. Yet, visually, the trends look strong. Look for example at the rebound of the Spider market. There are no other cars for which prices bounced as fiercely as for the Spiders in the beginning of 2023.
Now the Boxsters and the Caymans, especially the older ones, offer a relatively cheap way into the low depreciating Porsche market. There are of course also 911s that are doing well, but things will get quickly more expensive.
The 996.1 base model though is the cheapest car in the 911 series and also among the ones with the most stable prices. You can see that prices have been fluctuating between roughly $25,000 and $30,000 for almost 2 years now. One step up we find the 997 market, and also this market is performing well. Over here we have the aggregate numbers for the 2 and 4-wheel driven variants. We can see basically flat developments. 997.1 base models are up 1.4% and S is 1.7%. For the .2 variants this is 9 and 3.2%. GTSs even show an increase of 9.2%. But just like the rest of the increases, this isn't a confirmed increase. The GTS market for the 997 is extremely small. Stepping it up to the 991.1 market, we can see that prices are also holding up well over here. Base models are flat, S's are up by 2.5% and GTS's by 3.6%. These changes are also not confirmed, but a visual inspection of the trends reveals that prices have been flat during the last year. Note also that the GTS market is very small and that results need to be interpreted with care.
The 991.2 market is also doing well, but on an aggregate level it sits a bit more around the 0 point than on the positive side, so we'll skip that one for now. Keep an eye out for the full detailed Carrera market update if you want to know more about the 991.2s.
That brings us to the turbos. 996 and 997 turbos are on a roll. We can see that 996 turbos are up by 2.9%, 997.1s by 7.7% and .2s by 0.6%. Visually the trends also look strong. Price levels are almost at their pandemic market top. This is of course before inflation adjustment. It's also important to mention that .2 manuals are extremely rare, so they demand a significant price premium compared to the average that you see here.
The modern turbos are also doing well, but fall just on the negative side of the 0 point, so we'll save those for the detailed turbo market update.
That brings us to the GT3s.
None of them fall at the moment on the positive side of the 0 point. All generations lost between 1 and 3% during last year. Perhaps the 997s are still up, but that market is too small to deduce any reliable conclusions.
Continuing with the GT3 RSs, we can see that the .2s of the 997 and 991 generation are performing well. The .2s exclude the 4-liter variants and are up by 4.1%. But supply is extremely low, so we can't trust this number fully. Luckily, there are more than enough .2 GT3 RSs for sale, and they yield a reliable price trend. Not just any trend. No, a trend that increased by 3.4% during last year. Finally, we have the GT2 RS and the Speedsters. Naturally, they're doing well. Speedsters are up by 2.1% and GT2 RSs by 6.8%. Also here, the trends look visually quite strong. Statistically though, the year-over-year increase could be the result of chance.
Now I think it's about time we start to wrap up and talk about the key takeaways.
First, with exception of the Taycans, Panameras and GT4 RSs, the Porsche market is on average performing better than the rest of the sports and supercar market at this moment. All used 911s, boxsters and caymans are relatively safe purchases, so even the cars that aren't highlighted in this video are doing quite well.
Buying a Porsche is a smart thing to do from a value perspective, with exception of the previously mentioned models. Most Porsches depreciated between 0 and 6%. There are of course some differences between the models, but they're relatively small.
Second, if you're a value-conscious buyer, it's not so smart to buy a new Taycan or a Panamera. Taycan prices are plummeting in line with the EV market, and Panameras depreciate in line with other high-end luxury cars.
I don't think this is a surprise. The deflation of the GT4 RS price premiums though might have caught some buyers off guard, even though it's not an uncommon market dynamic.
Third, you don't need to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars if you want a Porsche that is not depreciating at all or might even go up in value. Sure, we saw that GT3 RSs and GT2 RSs are doing well, but 987 Caymans, 718 Boxsters, 996.1, 997, 991.1 Carreras and 996 Turbos are doing just as well while being much more affordable.
Some are not even that old yet.
Fourth, we only looked at descriptive trends and not at future trends. These trends can predict the short-term price development to some extent, but not the long-term development. Last year GT4s did for example extremely well. This year they still did well, but just fell on the negative side of the 0 point.
And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car markets, but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market updates for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for a fresh market update.